You're tuned in to Oilers Nation every day with Tyler Yaremchuk, live every weekday on the Nation Network YouTube.
They are no longer the unbeatable Bruins. What a comeback, what a game, what a big 2 points for the Edmonton Oilers. Let's get into it with the lead. Welcome into Oilers Nation every day, coming to live from the Sports Closet studio. Check them out online, sportscloset.ca. What a big win for the Edmonton Oilers. Oilers Nation every day, streaming live on the Nation Network YouTube, where Toby B has the first comment. Awesome game last night. Great team effort, and it definitely was. We will break it all down with our three big things brought to you by AMA Travel in just a second here. But that was just really, one of the more unique wins of the Oilers season for a handful of reasons, and we'll break it all down because it looked grim there for a little bit. Before I get into the three big things, that comeback victory, we talked about the significance of, the statistical significance, I guess you could say, of this thing on yesterday's show. The Bruins win leading after 20 minutes of play. We're 28-0-1. The Bruins win leading after 40 minutes of play. We're 35-0-2. They had never lost in regulation this season when leading after one or two periods. The Oilers changed that yesterday. And Les, I know you already made the joke in the chat about my tweet yesterday. And at the end of the first period, I tweeted, I said, absolute write-off of a night for the Edmonton Oilers. And it ended up being, well, anything but that. But let's go back to that first period a little bit and look at what we saw. It was an Oilers team that honestly did not. They played good in the opening 20. They didn't get a break. In fact, they got two bad breaks. The officiating and the refs looked like they did not want to call anything on the Boston Bruins. So I looked at a first period where it was like, yeah, there was like 10 minutes where the Oilers really dominated the Bruins, but you're down 2-0 to a team that does not cough up leads, who didn't have their best stuff in the first period. And I just thought, hey, the Oilers aren't going to win this hockey game because the Bruins don't blow leads. They rarely play back-to-back bad periods or two bad periods in a game. Things weren't looking great for the Edmonton Oilers, but they managed to turn on the Jets and come back to win that hockey game. The big storyline was almost Connor McDavid late in that hockey game, and not for any sort of good reasons. McDavid, with one of his quieter nights so far this season, did not register a point in that hockey game, but then he and Derek Ryan collide just outside of the Oilers' blue line, and McDavid, as you're about to see on the replay, and I'm sure a bunch of you don't want to see this thing at all, McDavid grabs his knee, looks to be in some considerable pain. Liam, what was your reaction when you saw that?
I think I almost cried, to be honest, Tyler. It was quite a terrifying scene. It was like any horror movie, when the big scary guy jumps out. So, yeah, not ideal, especially on friendly fire too. But
Yeah.
It was kind of funny when Boston was cycling around the zone there on that play. I was just looking at the bench to see if he was going down the tunnel. And luckily that did not happen. So they said he was on the ice this morning. So we can all take breaths again.
Yeah, I really did not care what was going on in the offensive zone there. I'm with you. And when he came out to play the final, whatever it was, minute of that game or 60 seconds of the final 90, whatever it was, when McDavid was back on the ice buzzing around, it felt good. And you're just hoping he's not waking up this morning too sore or nothing too serious is going on with McDavid. The team did skate today in in Toronto, which is where they'll be tomorrow night. Let's talk a little bit about, or go in depth on, what happened last night with our three big things brought to you by AMA Travel. I am heading to the airport in about 40 minutes. So this show is going to be a little bit shorter than usual because it's nation vacation time. We're heading out to Toronto. It's going to be a good time. It is going to be a great time. We got a suite for tomorrow night's game. Going to be rooting on the Oilers as they look for another win against a high-end Eastern Conference opponent. Let's talk about the 3-2 victory last night, though. Liam, I'll be honest, the Oilers were kind of sloppy in that hockey game. They turned on the Jets for like these little 3-minute spurts, I felt like, but for the night as a whole, there were really bad turnovers. There were a lot of plays where they had possession in the offensive zone and then couldn't hold the blue line, fumbled the puck at the blue line, couldn't complete an 8-foot pass. Like, there were stretches in that game that were ugly for the Oilers.
Yeah, it was pretty bad for most of the game, to be honest, but they managed to find a way in the third period and when it really, really mattered. And you know, after that first period goal where they scored right at the end there at the buzzer beater, it felt like a bit of a backbreaker, and they did have the goal disallowed to Boston from David Krejci for the offside too. But yeah, it wasn't the Oilers' like best performance in the world. I don't think it was their worst by any means, but it's quite amazing that they were able to come out with 2 points after against one of the top teams in the league after playing the way they did for most of the game.
Guitar Maniacs, pointless McDavid. A pointless McDavid win is more impressive than a 5-point McDavid win. And yeah, they needed their depth players to come through. More on that in just a second. They really just had to grind that one out. And what I liked was heading into big thing number 2, the bounce back from Stuart Skinner. That first period was not his best period. He gave up the goal to Marchand, which he certainly would want back, although that's a pretty good player coming down the wing at you, but he got a lot of it, couldn't keep it out. And then late in the period, it's kind of become a thing with Skinner, or kind of has been a thing with Stuart Skinner, where he's not great at playing the puck. We saw this a little bit in, like, I remember that game against Detroit where he fumbled it. Like, he's had some rough moments playing the puck, and that was certainly one of them. I will also say there were a couple of defensemen who could have done a better job of communicating with Stuart Skinner. I would say there was a centerman on the ice in Ryan McLeod who probably should have noticed the fact that a 40-plus goal guy in David Pastrnak was standing all alone there. And then there's also some bad luck on that play. The puck crosses the line with 0.3 seconds left. Like, that very easily could have not been a goal, and we're not even talking about a poor first period from Stuart Skinner. So where I'll go with it is that he bounced back in an unbelievable fashion. I believe he stopped 17 shots in the final 2 periods, a couple of really difficult saves as well. The Oilers' #1 goalie was a big reason why they won that hockey game.
Yeah, it just kind of shows where he's at mentally right now. I think that he's able
Yeah.
to just bounce back after the 2 goals that he allowed, which weren't ideal. Obviously, both of them kind of went right through him. There was also that game against New Jersey, I think it was, where he came out to play the puck and put it right on. I think it was Dawson Mercer's stick or something right like that too. So maybe stay in the net a little bit more, Stu. But overall, like, I feel very confident when Skinner's between the pipes. Other than like other goalies we've had the last couple of years, he feels like he's just able to bounce back from anything, and that just shows how good of a goaltender he truly is. So yeah, I think, like you said, Tyler, is the Oilers' #1, and I don't think it's even a debate, and I don't think it really has been for most of the season, to be honest.
Yeah, it really should have never been a debate. I mean, even when Campbell started to
Mhm.
play better, I think the #1 guy should have always been Stuart Skinner. His numbers have been consistent. He's been solid for the bulk of the season, save like a 1-week stretch. And Skinner is a big reason why they got a big 2 points tonight. Number 3, it's depth, baby. That Oilers bottom 6 is cruising along in remarkable fashion. And it's your boy, Devin Shore, Liam, who is leading the charge in some aspects. That fourth line has been incredible in back-to-back games. They outshot and outscored the Bruins when all 3 of them were on the ice at the same time. There were long stretches where they were just rifling the puck around the zone and had the Bruins top line hemmed in. Like, they weren't playing fourth line on fourth line matchups. It was fourth line on top line, and they managed to outplay them for the bulk of that hockey game. You get a look there at the Ryan McLeod goal that tied up the game in the third period. This team has legitimate depth. We talked about it at the jump heading into the season. Early in the year, it maybe wasn't there, but this is the Edmonton Oilers forward group that we were kind of promised in the offseason. They are dangerous lines 1-4 and showed it last night.
Yeah, and that fourth line, like you said, it was very good against the top line. Like Brad Marchand finished -2 last night, and he had a goal on 5-on-5. So this kind of shows why they were at against him with the depth scoring the Oilers had. But that fourth line, like, it seems to be Derek Ryan and Devon Shore. It doesn't matter who's playing with them at the moment. If it's been Costin, it was Puljujarvi for a little bit, and last night it was McLeod. They're able to produce and have a positive impact on the team on a nightly basis, and that's huge. And even Warren Fogle, like, I made fun of him last night for the breakaway chance that he blew. He almost put that one back in Edmonton with how far he missed the net, but at least the opportunities are there, and he's able to create stuff. He was buzzing last night too. So yeah, like, it's kind of coming together at a perfect time. Like, obviously all 82 games are very important, but as long as you kind of are able to figure it out towards the end of the season or as the season goes on, which you always have found a way to do, then yeah, I'm very happy with everything's going. And we had this debate yesterday, and I think maybe even a day before. Like, you always have 13 forwards now who can legitimately be in the lineup every single night, and it's a difficult decision that Jay Woodcroft has to make, and it's a good positive one too, for that matter. So I'm curious to see where Klim Kostin maybe slides back in eventually when he comes in. I'm not sure where you do it, but we'll see. Devon Shore is definitely giving himself a case to be in the lineup every single night at the moment.
Yeah, and that's actually going to be the interesting part for the game tomorrow against the Bruins as well, as we wrap up our three big things for AMA travel. Check them out. They can make your summer vacations a whole heck of a lot easier to plan and execute. Loved doing my summer plans with them. I don't know what Jay Woodcroft's going to do with this lineup tomorrow against the Toronto Maple Leafs, because I don't think you can take Devon Shore out, Liam. He's playing way too good. That fourth line is playing way too good. I think Klim Kostin is just, unfortunately, because I love the player and I think he's really impactful when he's in the lineup, he's going to have to sit for a little bit and wait for either someone to get hurt or someone to cool off, because you can't break up any part of this bottom six right now. Janmark was even good last game.
Yeah, Yaremchuk was pretty noticeable. I know yesterday on After Dark, a lot of people were calling for Kylie Yamamoto to leave the lineup, and I'm just not on that train at all. I wouldn't touch the 12 forwards at the moment. But as for the blue line, like, I think I would maybe rotate Broberg back in, and you mentioned it last night too, and I completely agree. The Leafs play with a lot of speed. Can Desharnais, like, keep up with all of that? I know he played against them the other week too, but now you're being matched up against because they obviously have the change advantage. So yeah, I think I'm on the train of maybe bringing in a Broberg and maybe flip over a Kulak, I suppose, to the other side. But the top four was really good last night, and I'm not saying Desharnais hasn't been good, but I would bring in Broberg.
Yeah, I think Vinny, there's nothing wrong with giving a guy a night off. And you don't want Broberg sitting for all that long either. And if you don't play him coming up, it'd be north of a week that he's been out of the lineup. I want Broberg playing. Also, there's probably going to be a point where you need Kulak to flip over to his offside. Might as well try it out at some point. Also, the Leafs skate really well, right? That's a fast-paced hockey team. Broberg moves a little bit better than Vinny Desharnais, so I don't see a problem with making that swap for the game against the Toronto Maple Leafs either. Again, it's not even like I'm sitting here saying Vinny needs to come out. He doesn't. He's a good quality NHL defenseman, which is wild considering what his value was 12 months ago, 6 months ago, 4 months ago. This guy was an afterthought for a lot of fans, and I know the organization was always really high on him, but I see no problem with just a quick little swap in the lineup. Throw Broberg in, take Vinny out for a game, give him a chance to look at the game from high above, get maybe a better player for the matchup tomorrow night. Yeah, I think I agree with you. One piece of news we did get, and I believe this was via Tony Brouwer down at the Oilers practice, is that Stuart Skinner appeared to be in the starters net for their skate today. Yeah, Tony did say that. Stuart Skinner in the starters net, so it sounds like he could get the call over Jack Campbell tomorrow. I wouldn't have minded going to Campbell just because I like the narrative side of it, and it would have been really cool to see Jack kind of go head-to-head with his former team and maybe have like a turnaround kind of game. But the Oilers are ultimately going to go with Stuart Skinner, so you can let me know how you're feeling about that over in the YouTube chat. Yeah, I don't know. You go with your best guy. You want the 2 points, I guess. What's your take, Liam?
I think there's games where you can play Campbell. Like, we had that mailbag question today, Tyler. I don't know if you looked at them, but like, it was like, when do you play him next? I think there's probably 5 games you can get Campbell in, and they all come at very reasonable times. My next start would probably be Ottawa, I think it is, on Tuesday or Wednesday, and then he sits for a couple of games, and he gets Arizona, and then there's other games too, like San Jose, Anaheim's in there. Like, there's relatively softer games that if Jack Campbell does allow 4 goals, for example, the Oilers should be able to outscore their problems in that game. So I just wouldn't run the risk of playing him against a top opponent unless something drastic happens, I guess you could say.
Yeah. The stream has apparently picked up. I like the people being like, these guys probably don't know how to use internet. Like, we're not morons. It's just a matter of the location of our office downtown leads us to sometimes have some inconsistent internet. Like, we have been doing the show now for a while. The internet is good, like, I don't know, 75% of the time. And it feels like once every 4th day we have to deal with a bit of a lag. But I mean, the
It's
podcast
like when,
version always sounds good.
yeah, it's like when people put out their top 100 lists of something and there's one player that is in the wrong spot and it's automatically the worst list in the world. That's how our internet feels most of the time, when it's like, oh, we could have 20 great shows in a row, but boy, oh boy, if that 21st sucks, you guys are no good anymore.
Or is the internet bad because I'm streaming the Players Championship at the same time that I'm doing this show? Maybe that's the
Could be.
reason why. But no, my Wi-Fi is good down in the Sports Closet studio. It's the office Wi-Fi. We're working on it. There's something about like fiber optic. We're waiting for whoever the installer is, whoever the company is that does it. They haven't done it yet in the office or the area where our office is, so it's coming. It's gonna get better. It's just a matter of us getting someone out to fix it, or Starlink. I've heard we might do that as well. A bunch of possibilities, but we are working on the internet issues. Stick with us, and I think the audio always stays pretty fine. It's just our video rate that seems to
Mhm.
drop a little bit. So just pretend it's a radio show. Just put a different browser up and don't watch us. Just listen to us. Anyways, Oilers leaves tomorrow night. I'm going to be in Toronto as part of the nation vacation. There'll be good Wi-Fi in Toronto for me. But the playoff race is heating up for the Oilers, and thankfully, they finally got a little bit of help on the out-of-town scoreboard. Not a lot of help. The Lightning had to pull off a late comeback. It looked like maybe they were going to beat the Golden Knights and spoil that evening for Vegas, but Vegas came out with an overtime victory. Dallas put up 10 on the Buffalo Sabres. That was absolutely wild. Eric Comrie stayed in for
Yeah.
all 10 goals as well, but the Ottawa Senators beat the Seattle Kraken. A big game. Granted, they almost blew it. They were up 3-0 early in that hockey game, and then at one point trailed in the game 4-3, but the Senators finished the job, and now the Oilers are tied with the Seattle Kraken, 80 points apiece. The Kraken do have one game in hand, but, and we've talked about this, this is important, and you're going to want to know this if you're a fan of the Oilers, the number one tiebreaker is regulation wins. The Oilers own that tiebreaker over Seattle, LA, and Vegas, and it's not close. Edmonton has 34 regulation wins. Seattle has 30, LA has 28, Vegas has 28. All the Oilers need to do is be in a tie with those teams, and they will finish ahead of them in the standings. So they're tied with Seattle. I mentioned the game in hand, but that tiebreaker also works in the Oilers' favor a little bit. Edmonton 6-3-1 in their last 10. Seattle 6-4 in their last 10. LA 7-2-1. They've won 5 in a row. They are red hot right now. And Vegas is 6-2-2. At least the Oilers got a bit of help on the out-of-town scoreboard, Liam. But it's this race, like, we're going to be pulling up that standings board every single show from now until whatever, April 12th when the season ends. I have a feeling there's only going to be, like, by the end of this thing, 4 points separating first from fourth in this division. I don't think anyone's going to, like, wildly pull away, is my point.
Yeah, I completely agree, Tyler. And I think for the Oilers, it's just going to come down to those divisional games, right? You just gotta come out on the better side of when you play Vegas. I think you play Vegas twice, LA twice, and Seattle one more time, and then a couple of games against the other teams in the division too. But those are the more important ones. And as long as you can kind of keep pace, like I understand it's frustrating when Vegas wins every time the Oilers win, but as long as you keep winning and then you manage to get a victory over Vegas as well, you have the three. You'll have a series lead over them on head to head this season. So, yeah, I'm confident the Oilers can get it done. I think that top two is somewhere I think we predicted a couple of weeks ago they could finish, and I still believe in that spot for them too. I mean, Vegas had Jonathan Quicken goal last night, and the goals he were allowing weren't fantastic against Tampa Bay. They just kind of outscored their problems. So I think the Oilers should be able to surpass both those teams. And it was funny too. I was looking at the standings like, oh, the Oilers were pretty close to the top of the Western Conference the other week. I wonder where they are. And I looked and I saw, oh, they're in sixth. And then you look and they're only 2 wins off the top. So it's the Western Conference is, I know it's not as stacked as maybe the East, but it's very competitive. And the Oilers are in a really good spot for where they want to be, I think.
Oilers also moved into second place in the NHL in regulation wins. Like when they win, they win. And it's wild to
Yeah.
think they're second in regulation wins in the league at 34, and they're 12th in the league in points. It's one of those things. And I know they have racked up quite a few OT losses as well. They just haven't relied on overtime victories and shootout victories the way some other teams have. But hey, 2 points is 2 points. As we head into the weekend, because tonight there's nothing going on in the NHL. I guess Anaheim's playing Calgary, so we're kind of rooting for the Ducks in that one. But let's be real. Even if the Flames win, this is their game in hand. They're still 7 points back of the Oilers, and Edmonton has that Winnipeg buffer in there as well. So it's nothing overly concerning. Tomorrow, I should say the out-of-town scoreboard is a little bit more interesting. Vegas is in Carolina. Tough game. Winnipeg's in Florida, also a bit of a tough matchup there. Dallas and Seattle go head-to-head. So as long as that one doesn't go to overtime and the Oilers take care of business, they could be gaining points on one of those two teams. And LA is hosting Nashville. So same thing there. There's a bit of a head-to-head. If they don't go to overtime, you're going to be happy with the result one way or the other in those games. You're probably rooting for Dallas, though, to beat Seattle so you can try to jump ahead of them and get out of a wild card spot as soon as tomorrow night. So it'll be a fun Saturday around the NHL. I mean, get the second screens ready and get ready to just be absolutely dialed in to hockey for the entire night. Kyler's betting on the Ducks. Manifest. Sure. Why not? Desker says, let's be real. We lost to the Ducks, bro. And hey, that's fair. You could look back throughout the season and find a lot of nights where the Oilers let 2 points slip against bad teams, Liam. But that's the way things go. Like, there's also now been games against the Bruins where you're like, hey, maybe we didn't deserve those 2 points, but you found a way to get it done. My other beef with the Bruins, how do the Oilers go 6 periods against a team and only get 2 power plays? That's a joke.
Especially with some of the penalties they would get into. That Hampus Lindholm one where Vanderkeen held him was like, okay, that is a bit of a wild reaction to what actually happened. And the amount of pick plays that were in there too, it was pretty suspicious about what was going on. I don't think the Bruins played dirty by any means, but the way the Oilers play, like, how do you go that long without, we've only, what was it, midway through the third period, I think they got one out late in the second, whatever it was, but it's just like, we only had 2 power plays, and they had 5 the first time the Oilers played them. And however many they had last night, maybe 2 or 3, whatever it was, but it's just wild.
Here's my kind of theory on it is you get a team like the Bruins, and remember back to like the LA Kings when they were the LA Kings, right? Like the Sutter coached Doughty, Brown, Kopitar in their prime LA Kings. They got away with murder. The Bruins, I'm not saying it's to that extent, but they get away with a lot of grabbing, a lot of hooking, a lot of things like that. And I think there's a little bit of a mental thing for NHL officials when you see a team who has the reputation of being hard to play against, right? Hard-nosed, will shut you down, do anything to stop the scoring chance. You see them commit an infraction, and your first thought is almost, they're playing hard. They're playing hard tonight. And you want to let them go because you just think it's a team playing to their identity a little bit when their identity is a bit built around breaking the rules to some extent. So listen, there have been 2 penalties in the Oilers head-to-head again, or 2 power plays for the Oilers in their head-to-head against the Bruins. I would argue the Bruins had 5, 6 infractions. Like, just as you watch the game, there's a lot of moments where you're like, that could have been called, that could have been called. And I'm not sitting here saying the refs are out to get the Oilers. There have been a lot of games this year where the Oilers have gotten a lot of calls and gotten away with a lot. It's the ebbs and flows of officiating in a season. I just think it's a trend in the NHL where these high-end teams who have the reputations of being stingy and hard to play against, the good teams seem to just get away with a bit more. And I think it's a bit of a problem in the NHL. Les says, like Tampa as well. Yeah, man, Victor Hedman could get away with anything.
Yeah, it's kind of funny how that really works, to be honest. But you're right. And Patrice Bergeron has all these Selke awards while he's on the Big Bag Bruins as well.
Yeah.
Suspicious?
Well, I mean, Maybe. He is one of the best defensive players ever. But I do think even he gets away with a ton. Ironically, he was the only Bruin who took a trip to the penalty box in last night's hockey game. So there you go. Hey, our Betway bets from yesterday. Was Jay the only one who got it right?
Yes, Jay got a victory. That is the first time that has happened this season. So there you have it. Well done, Jay. You have 2 wins now. Thanks. And it's fair. He's the only one. He's the only one that believed the Oilers could truly get that win last night by making the bet on it. So you'll have to see it.
Yeah, Jay finally gained some ground here. And I'm sure, at least I'll be trying to make up for that tomorrow because I'll be betting heavy because I'm in attendance at the game in Toronto. Oilers Leafs tomorrow night at 5 o'clock. Let's check in on what you're all saying in the chat. Lance says, if I have to hear about Matthews' block shot stats, I'm going to drink. That is the thing. Like, I love that Frank Saravalli's really been the only mainstream media guy at like a national level to come out and say the truth. And it's that Austin Matthews has been wildly disappointing this season. He could heat up. He could have a great playoff run. But Leafs fans being like, he's just paying more attention to his defensive game and blocking shots. I don't want my star players blocking shots. I want them playing good defense, which Connor McDavid's also been doing really well this season. If you look at defensive metrics and things like that, McDavid's D game is fine, and he's not putting his body on the line and risking breaking a hand with a block shot. Matthews has been hurt for stretches this year as well, and his goal scoring is way down. If you asked Austin Matthews, if you said, hey, Austin, would you rather lead the NHL in goals or block shots? I have a funny feeling I know what his answer would be. And if you ask Leafs fans, honestly, which one they would prefer, you know what their answer would be. They'd rather have that guy scoring goals because that's what he gets paid north of $10 million to do. Matthews has been disappointing. Mitch Marner's been the MVP of that team so far this season. And not to get into too much of a preview or my thoughts on the Leafs right now, I totally understand Oilers fans who are a little bit nauseated at the talk around Austin Matthews right now, because guess what? 12 months ago, Liam, we had to sit here and deal with so much love for this guy chasing 60 goals. Oh, he's going to get 60. McDavid's going to get 60 by his 70th game this season. And there has not been nearly as much hype about it on a national level. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I've done my best this year actually just to blank out the Toronto Maple Leafs and whatever's going on there, because it is quite annoying. But like you said, like it's quite disrespectful to Connor McDavid with what he's been able to do this season. Like there's been talks of 70 goals. Like maybe that's a little tougher now, but it's within reach still, and there's just not a lot of spark about it outside of the city, it feels like, which is wrong of the NHL, to be honest. The NHL should be the ones pushing this the most because he's the best player in the league. And then we sit here and wonder why nobody watches the NHL. And then you look at the schedule tonight and there's 2 games on a Friday night. So it's just like, maybe figure that out, NHL.
Yep. Scotty says, like Frank said, you can pay $750K to a player to block shots. I loved that line. Kenneth Mark Holland said, did your guys' flight get delayed? It did. I was supposed to be in Toronto doing this show, actually, but we don't fly out until like 3 o'clock now this afternoon. So I'm heading to the airport like ASAP here. We're going to wrap up the show in just a second. Tomorrow's show, it's going to be an hour early, okay? If you're listening right now, I want you to like acknowledge this in the chat for me so I don't have a bunch of people tweeting me tomorrow being like, why'd the show start an hour early? We got some meetings in Toronto. I need to do the show an hour early. We're going to go live at 11 a.m. Mountain Time tomorrow for Oilers Nation every day. Does the class under? Are we all good? Liam, you good? 11 a.m. tomorrow?
I'm good. I got it. I wrote it in the chat, so it was acknowledged.
All right. Perfect. 11 a.m. tomorrow. 11 a.m. Aaron, producer Aaron, he says he's good to go as well. So tomorrow's show is going to be an hour early. So there you go. We're going to go live. Sherwood Ford Giant Game Day. We'll be live in Toronto, and then you'll want to keep it locked on the socials to see how much fun we're having on a nation vacation, brought to you by AMA Travel. Before we wrap up today, Liam, what do you like tonight from a Betway perspective? Hit that button, Aaron. Yeah.
Well, there is not a lot going on in the NHL tonight, but I found a couple of good ones. The first one, if you want to flash him up here, Aaron, Taylor Radish over 1.5 shots. Felt kind of nice to me. Minus 134. He's hitting 3 straight games. This guy has had a very good season. I know Tyler Mulick's been talking about him quite a bit, but yeah, I like that one. Then Trevor Zegras has hit a shot prop in 3 straight games at plus 120, over 2.5. So, like I said, not a ton going on in the NHL tonight, so you're kind of picking up bones here, but those should do the trick.
Yeah, I kind of I like just parlaying the 2 favorites on the money line. It gets you a pretty decent run. I like that Taylor Radish bet. He scored 2. Yeah, that's a solid play. Blake Coleman is a shot prop I like for Calgary. He's hit it. He missed last game, but it hit it in 5 straight before that. So it's like a bit of a bounce back spot. The lines dropped down a little bit. So I like the Coleman shot prop tonight as well. And I would like Rory McIlroy to start making some birdies. And I would like the projected cut line at the players to fall to +2 so Justin Thomas can make it. And there you go. That's on my betting wish list for the rest of this afternoon here. I love watching golf on TV. I know people, if they say it's like as boring as watching paint dry, but we were watching yesterday at the office. I could sit there all day. If you gave me a beer in my hand, I could sit there all weekend and just watch golf on TV. It's the best, man.
We got it on here at the office, Tyler. There's a few of us here right now, and we were all dialed in on the golf as soon as I got in today. So, yep, the golf vibes are real at Nation HQ today.
Yes, it's the best. Airport beers, yep, I'm going to be consuming those in just a second. Lance wants to know if he should text into TSN 1260 or what question he should send into the radio station around 1 o'clock. I do need to actually pack because I have all the gear set up to do this show. I now need to pack it, leave to the airport, and do a radio hit. So we're going to wrap up this show. Shout out to our friends at Star Mechanical as well, starmechanical.ca. They sponsor the guest line here on the show. If you need emergency service, 780-481-8873 is the number you're going to want to call there. Also, Sports Closet Studio coming on the road, heading out to T-Dot for tomorrow's show. It'll be a Sherwood Ford Giant Game Day edition of Oilers Nation every day. At what time, everyone? Say it with me. 11 a.m. Mountain
11
time tomorrow.
a.m.
Yes, we'll get set for the Oilers and Leafs game and get up to our usual self. Chat with everybody tomorrow at 11 a.m.